So we're looking at the model now, and I've pared it down just to show the important ideas about the moment frame and the stair towers that I've created. Maybe a little discussion about these exterior walls, and just to show you what that kind of looks like, I'll just unhide all elements. So you can see it's really still the full building. So I'm going to just turn those off, and just for a moment we'll just kind of rotate around here and discuss a few things with it. So I've got a few modules in place, so you can see these moment frames I've created. The moment frames are to create a more rigid first floor, to get rid of that soft story issue that I've discussed. So this would be reinforced concrete with really strong moment connections here. Really kind of, actually, if we were to rotate around to the backside, there's a little more going on with shear wall performance, because I have, besides these moment frames, these stair towers have another shear wall in this direction also. And that's thinking, if you think about these frames, there's no internal shear wall construction within them, but nothing says that there couldn't be. I mean, between any of these two framing members, it could have a solid shear wall in it also. And I mean, it will have wall constructed. Whether that wall would perform as shear wall or not is a part of engineering and design issues. So a little bit about the idea of the stair towers. I'm showing them in CMU, but this would probably be a solid cast wall. And the stairwell that I've created is just a multi-story stairwell. I don't know, it's an assembled stair, so I didn't have to create these intermediate landings. They were automatically created. I held them a little bit from this facade and decided to make this all glass. Now, there may be fire code issues with that. I'm not sure, but it is to the exterior of the building. I wasn't sure whether that would actually meet code or not, or whether there might be need for special glass. Otherwise, that could just be a solid element. But it makes for a nice decorative element. The stairway themselves, if I was to highlight them, you can see that they're multi-story stairs. So you can actually do all kinds of management with adding, I'll have to switch to a view. I can't do that because I'm in perspective. But the idea, if you haven't, let's just go to stair, and let's see if it allows. You'll see that it has the option when you make the first run. If you did like level 2, you can then go ahead and connect levels. I have hidden the levels, but you just highlight the levels that you want it on, and it'll build your stair all the way up. My only caution is I found that multi-story stair didn't work well if I started at the first floor, because we have a different inner story height. The first level is a podium level, so it's a bit higher. And actually, I should go to, let me just cancel out of this a minute. I should go to a south elevation so you can see some of the basic structure of the overall. It looks like, yeah, so here are the levels. So my first level 1, it's 18 foot to level 2. And then each one of these is an interval of 11 feet going up. And I made this, I put a level 7, although that would be the roof, really. I could relabel that. But those are the modules or the levels that I built that fit with the module that I've created of 11 feet. So you may want to just take note of that. So my first story level is 18 feet. And why I'm talking about this right now is that makes this bottom stair run different than all the rest going up. So it's relatively quick, though, let me sign the moment base again, to create that multi-story stair. The doorway was just placed then in that solid and then just duplicated up. Stuff that's common and ordinary for you. But if you haven't done multi-story stairs, this might be a good chance to kind of experiment with that. So back to this idea of the moment frames. In my selection, my moment frames, you'll notice, are sitting right over the bearing of these column systems. So they're a continuation of that. So this beam is relatively thick because that's carrying point loads across this whole beam section here in order to carry them finally down to this this column. Now that just gives you a kind of a way of having a load path. You don't necessarily know how thick these beams will be, but you can obviously widen these or thicken these according to what kind of engineering would happen. But at least you've already started to identify load paths and made them relatively consistent. So you haven't made it tricky for it to be structurally engineered, so to speak. So I built these moment frames. They're just generic models, and they're just forms extruded. That was relatively problematic because The idea is you have a 0 starting point, you extrude for 1 foot, and then when you try to move them, they get a little bit squirrely. So if you have another technique to make those moment frames, you could make them out of parts and pieces or other elements, but just a little heads up that was a little bit of trouble for me. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's important in this kind of whole discussion. I've got this end wall cut back here, but I only did that in order to show the modules going into place. This could be a solid cast concrete shear wall also. It may be overkill, but there needs to be something to deal with the end condition of the modules showing on the building. The modules, certain modules could come with pre-sided or having some kind of a finish on them, and or the whole thing could then be reclad over, but there needs to be some attention paid to that. And then I guess let's go around to the back side again and kind of understand what's happening here with the, looks like I'm still in an editing mode for the stairway. You'll notice that this slab is cantilevering over. Let me actually hide this wall in view for a minute. So you can kind of get an idea of what's going on here. So this is the landing, and the landing I made so it touches the last riser up here, but then I made it cantilever over 4 feet, just as if we were to go down here, that then aligns with the depth of the modules that are also cantilevering over. And this creates 4 feet, so if I mirror this whole building construction over, so double load the apartment units, I have an 8-foot corridor going down through the center of the building. So that was just my thinking on a way to not have to build extra corridors or other elements that would have to be dropped in place. They were already unitized or carried along with the modules themselves, and then the only thing you needed to do is anticipate that same need in the elevator core if this was the kind of arrangement that you were having. And once again, I'm not trying to encourage or discourage kind of whatever creativity you want to deal at this level. You may want to put your more of your energy into the development of the facade and or into the layout of the building. But I do need to see this idea of an attention to a stiffening the first floor because of what's called soft story issues, and I need to have shear walls developed, and obviously a fire protected egress from our multi-story wood frame building. So those are the kind of elements that I would like to see presented and labeled, and this is kind of a strategy to deal with that.